To order this meeting of the Oxford Historic Preservation Commission. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda that we on the commission have all received a copy of. Is there approval, a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
It's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item is approval of the minutes from the November 20th, 2023 meeting, which we have all received. Is there a motion that we accept the minutes as presented?
I so moved. And I'll second.
Motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item is to discuss a new date for the January meeting. Martin Luther King Day falls on the same day that our scheduled meeting is to take place. I would like to suggest that we reschedule that meeting to January the 22nd, if that would meet with the approval of the commission.
Before you do that, I think you need to look at also February, because that also falls on President's Day. We usually have to change both months. So we might want to consider that all at once.
Just go ahead and do both.
Just do it at
Yeah.
once.
Have you got a calendar handy, Kate?
I do, yes. So the 22nd would be the following Monday for MLK for January.
Well, yeah, I think the January 22nd is one that we are comfortable with.
Yes.
But in February, what would be an alternative date?
February the 19th is that Monday, and that's President's Day. We can push it to that Thursday, the 22nd of February. Or we could go a week later, which would be the 26th.
Well, why don't we, just for simplicity, consider changing both dates to the 22nd of January and February. Is there a motion that we reschedule the meeting date for January and February to January 22 and February 22?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? That suits everybody that's present and voting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Staff.
Send you guys a reminder for that.
Yes, thank you. Is there a staff report tonight? No staff report. Are there any questions from the commission on the two cases that received administrative approvals? If not, we'll move on to public hearings. First public hearing is for case number 744, COA requested by Timothy Garner Designs for new construction at 100 Cove Drive. Kate.
Okay. The applicant seeks approval to build a new single-family home on the existing vacant lot at 100 Cove Drive. Ben's gonna pull those plans up for you guys. The house will front East Jackson Avenue and sit at the front of the development, where there's currently one new house at the back that's constructed. So two unbuilt lots will remain after this building's construction. The proposed two-story house, you'll see on the plans, the retaining walls, it will be sort of built into the hillside. So there, you'll see some 6-foot retaining walls on the side there, with a 4-foot retaining wall at the front entry of the house. The applicant's material list includes painted brick, wood, stone, metal and iron, asphalt shingle, and aluminum clad windows and doors. So when we're considering new construction in the historic district, we must be sensitive to issues of compatibility, the existing relationships between structures and their setting. The applicant's building pad is directly northwest of the Shaw House, which we're all familiar with, built in the 1860s. It's one of the remaining antebellum homes in town. The commission will consider the proposed plans using the new construction section of the Oxford Design Guidelines. A new building should contribute to the character of the district and should be compatible with the existing environment without exactly duplicating existing buildings. As the guidelines state, an acceptable way to think about a compatible new building is that it should be a good neighbor enhancing the character of the district and respecting its context. So in the staff report, I took you guys through the items to consider when we're talking about new construction in the historic district. The new building does have a front entry oriented to the street, which is recommended, and also is required by the Land Development Code. The scale, a new building, according to the guidelines, should be of similar scale to the existing built environment. The two-story building is appropriate. Massing is derived from the articulation of a building's facade through the use of dormers, towers, roof projections, bays, porches, and steps. A building's massing significantly contributes to the character of the street. This house differs a little bit from the surrounding houses in that it doesn't feature any front porch or elements to break up the massing of the front elevation, which would be more typical for the street. The design of a new building should respect but not duplicate the existing proportions of its neighbors, which is the relationship of the dimension of the building elements, such as windows and doors, to each other and to the overall building elevations. This house does feature a little bit larger windows and doors on the first floor, as well as some arched openings that are not typical of the street. And you'll see some triple hung windows when I think double hung is more typical on the street. Materials and color. The materials proposed by the applicant are commonly approved and used in Oxford's historic districts. While painting historic brick is not appropriate, the commission has regularly approved painted brick for new construction, which is what this is. Another note on materials, the proposed brick and metal fencing, which the applicant notes will be the same as that seen at Kennedy Cove, which sits on the other side of the Shaw House, does not meet the recommendations of the design guidelines. The guidelines note that fencing constructed of vertical brick piers spanned by vertical boards or panels of wrought iron, those types of materials were not combined for fencing in the late 19th and early 20th century, and are more appropriate for modern subdivisions rather than a historic district. We spoke with the architect a little bit about this, and the fencing is needed because of the grade change at the lot. So the side of that fencing on the front porch is going to be retaining wall, but they might consider doing an all brick retaining wall or some design that's different than Kennedy Cove, so it doesn't look like the two developments have subsumed the Shaw House, because they all match. So that was what staff recommends. The proposed roof shape differs from the existing buildings on East Jackson Avenue. Common roof lines include gable, cross gable, and hipped roofs. So the commission should consider if the proposed roof line and parapet are appropriate for the street and the district. The proposed detailing, primarily cast stone headers for windows and doors, along with their use of the roof line, are minimal and appropriately placed. So staff recommends that the commission carefully evaluate these factors of compatibility. Staff does find the proposed design acceptable. The areas of concern, particularly the roof line and the scale and proportion of the windows, would not be appropriate if the house were placed directly next to the Shaw House at the same grade, but the lower elevation does help soften those differences a little bit. We do request that if a motion is made for approval, that the applicant, prior to permitting, provides confirmation to staff that the building's area is in compliance with the originally approved coverage area. Coverage is not typically a concern of this commission, but we do want to ensure that that was also, I think, a part of the original approval for the subdivision, but we just want to make sure that the coverage is such that there won't be stormwater issues, and it's along with what was originally approved. So Timothy Garner, who is the designer for the applicant, is on the line if you have any questions for him.
Welcome to the meeting, Mr. Garner. Can you hear us? Timothy, can you hear us? We see you on the screen, but we don't have any audio from you. We see your name on the screen. I think we need to have him present, at least virtually, to proceed.
We do.
text him and see if the issue's on her side?
Well, it shows him as on the line. The issue is that we're not hearing him. I'll text him and see if he's
He might
hearing
have
me.
us muted.
He doesn't.
Could you ask Angie to unmute and say something?
I'm sorry?
Could you ask Angie Braxton?
Angie, can you hear us? Anyone?
I can. Can you hear me?
I'm sorry. Angela, can you hear us?
Yep, she can.
She can.
I can. Can you hear me, Jack?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Timothy, if you can hear me, I'm sure you've checked your mute to make sure it's not on.
Yeah, I don't see that he's muted. So, do you have his number, Ben?
I think we can give it a minute, and if not, we could change the position on the agenda of this item.
Take me back to COVID times.
Hello.
I think you just spoke.
Timothy, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I was on the team, but it wasn't working. So anyway, so I'm here now.
Can you speak up?
Yeah, we can barely hear you. I don't know if you can control that. Say something else,
Yeah. Can
please.
you guys hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Have,
great.
have you heard
Sorry
the
about
first part of this presentation?
Yes, sir. I heard everything. Something's wrong with my mic on my computer.
Great. Would you like to add anything to Kate's remarks?
I don't think so. The only thing is if the fencing along the front is an issue, the homeowner has agreed to change it to whatever you guys recommend, whether it be an all brick fence at the front, whatever they need to do to accommodate, they're willing to do. They don't want to go against anything you guys recommend. They just want to get it approved and do what you guys recommend so they can move forward.
Well, that's nice to hear. Thank you. I'll open the floor for discussion and questions about this case to the commissioners. Just a little bit of a rehash. Extra significance because it's directly contiguous, facing the Shaw House, and then questions regarding the windows, the design of the windows. I think particularly triple hung versus double hung, which is more common in this area. The design of some doorways with arches, which is unusual. Conversation about the retaining wall. So those and any other issues that commissioners might have.
Yeah, if these are condominiums, are all of is unit 101, 103, and 102 gonna look similar to 100, or are they all like separate houses with different designs?
It's a good question. The intent was that these were all one-off designs. So it was not ever presented as all these condos are going to look the same. It was, as we see them develop, they'll have different designs and influences unless they design in a way that they are compatible with each other.
And this house is quite different than the house existing on the side. It's got like a front porch, cross gable roof, maybe just a side gable roof. Anyway, it's the only house, it's like in the back corner of that when you come in on the drive, it's the only house that's constructed in this area currently. I think Ben's gonna pull it up for you guys.
This one? I was trying to pull
The
the fence
other
up.
side.
I was trying to
Oh,
pull the
that's
fence.
the fence, yeah.
it sounds to me like all the concerns he's willing to change.
Yeah. Tim, you've heard Kate's comments, and I mentioned several of the concerns that the staff has that are unusual or non-conforming. Is your statement about the owners that they are willing to agree to the ideas, the suggestions of the staff on each of these?
Yes, sir. Yeah, the homeowner is more than willing to, agree with any recommendations you guys have. We initially designed the house to where it didn't face Jackson, and so when we presented that ran an issue. Oh, well, we need to do what we need to do to face it toward Jackson. It's a prominent street. So went back to the drawing board. This is what the homeowner wanted. She sketched it herself, and I put it together on paper for her, and so that's how we got to this point. So I did notice a few, arch windows, the larger scale windows on the lower half. It has a front porch, but the front porch is recessed in instead of, hanging off the front essentially. So, I did bring those to their attention, but they liked this design and they wanted me to present it for them. And if you guys had any recommendations, they're willing to go for it.
Is there a way that you could classify the style of this house?
The what now? I'm sorry.
Jimmy, could you put your microphone down?
I'm sorry?
Could you put your microphone down? You might not be able to hear you.
Is this house, could you classify the style of the house?
Can we see the rendering of the proposed facades, please?
So the house, in my opinion, I guess French provincial. It reminds me of something that would be in New Orleans, quite honestly. That's my opinion. With the parapet and et cetera.
There are enough parts of this that are different, meaning parts that the staff has concerns about. There are enough of those as compared to your request for a COA that I'm really not sure how best to navigate this, and I'm looking to Kate and Ben, who are not looking at me.
We heard you. We heard you.
They've sort of given us a carte blanche here. How would you prefer we proceed?
Well, I don't think we want to get into designing for the client, but maybe if there is a motion to approve maybe the fencing and window and door openings could be subject to staff approval or return to the commission, however you guys
For those
see fit,
elements.
for those two elements. So they'd be able to move forward with the site.
If we made the motion to have portions of it to go back to you for staff review,
Right.
would that hold up any construction for them? Would they be waiting another month for that, or is that something you could address right away?
We could address it when we receive new plans from them.
Okay, so
they're
it
not,
wouldn't be holding up anything. Do you
So,
need to come back to us, or are we just giving you the okay?
I think that's at your discretion if
Okay,
you'd like them to come
thank you.
back then.
if we were to consider a motion of approval for the plans to be modified to the satisfaction of the staff,
I would like to hear though from if any commissioners, that is the way that it goes, like if there's not an issue with the window and door openings in the commission's eyes, then it wouldn't need revision. So I would like to hear comment from the commission on what,
wouldn't
enough.
want to open up Pandora's box and have you approve a triple hung window, and that's not something that would normally be approved. So I think I would feel comfortable making the motion to change the windows and the wall and let everything else be decided by y'all.
Okay.
I would say, I'm not sure what is included in Diane's thought about the windows, the triple, double. The arches sort of stand out to me as unusual in this neighborhood.
If it's a concern, then you could tack that on to the windows.
Yeah, it's part and parcel of the windows.
So are you waiting on a motion?
So Diane has expressed concern about the windows. I've expressed concern about the arches. Any other commissioner have an opinion about anything that they'd like to weigh in to the staff?
The fence and-
Kate, can
I
you
agree with
refresh
both
me
of y'all.
quickly on your narrative a moment ago about particularly if the arches of the window are against guidelines, or that's just a design kind of preference?
Well, the guidelines state that it should reflect what's on the street. And so seeing this is not typical, particularly an arch window with a transom like that. So that's why I brought
Okay.
it up in the report.
Thank you.
Because there are some rectangular triple hung windows in the historic district on new construction, but not in this vicinity.
If those were French doors, you probably wouldn't say a word, so it's hard for me to get to have much of a problem with those being triple hung.
Yeah,
If those were doors, nobody would say a word. That's what they look like.
I think the arches were what we were trying to get at with the staff report.
Agreed.
The arches, there seems to be some consistency of concern about the arches
The arched openings.
from commissioners. And the roof line is unusual, and I agree, it looks like a downtown French Quarter sort of roof line, which is unusual, but I would defer to the staff. Is it unusual enough to want to change it or not?
Well, that's sort of why I put it up to you guys in the report, I mean, we stated what roof lines are more typical, sorry, Angie, probably can hear me. We stated what roof lines are more typical on the street, which is the Shaw House has a hipped roof. We see a lot of gable front and cross gable roofs, and this is outside that. The question is, if the design guidelines recommend compatible but new, and they recommend that a building be of its time, does the commission find it appropriate or inappropriate?
Does
It's a
anybody
little on the line.
does any commissioner have any concern, issue with the design of the roof as we're looking right now? It seems not. Again, I think there is concern about the arches over windows and doors. And windows,
That was based mainly on what Kate said on triple hung. And I do agree with Joel, if it was a French door, it wouldn't matter.
I agree. Kate, are we giving you enough direction to make you comfortable in making those adjustments? And the others, we don't have a strong opinion about. It would be. Are there any other comments or questions regarding any of these things we've spoken of?
Jack, is there any discussion about the fencing?
The front fencing.
I pulled this picture up because I think they suggested that they would do something similar to what's on the east side of the Shaw House, where they would do.
This fencing, tell us, this fencing that we're looking at, what and where is this, or is that a
on the
render?
other side of the Shaw House. You can see the Shaw House right there.
Didn't we approve that fencing on
We
that
did.
house? Yeah.
So we have already approved that fencing
That style, yes.
in this neighborhood. And we recently also approved another fence that's a combination of brick and wrought iron, I believe.
That's correct.
Does anybody want to make a comment about the fencing being a combination of masonry and metal?
I think it looks nice.
And it's already there.
Yeah.
I think for the integrity of the community, to make it look congruent, it would be nice to have something that's kind of repeating.
I think we understand that it's not appropriate to the,
In every instance.
in the age of the historic elements in the neighborhood, but I think there's reason to approve it. So there seems to be no concern about
that
that
helps.
feature. Any other comment?
What motion are you looking for?
I think we're looking for a motion that we approve the request as presented, with the understanding that modifications will be made to the satisfaction of the staff.
There are a few people in the audience. You just want to double check and make sure there isn't anybody here that wants to comment on it.
Does anybody present have any comment about this case? If you do, you're welcome to speak. No comments. So, you've heard a variation of a motion that can be considered if anybody would like to make that motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Garner. The next hearing is for case 760, COA requested by Sam R. Coker, architect, for demolition and new construction at 814 University Avenue.
Hi. Okay, so this case is regarding 814 University Avenue, located in the South Lamar District. The applicant seeks approval by the commission to demolish an existing outbuilding on the rear of the property and replace with a two-story garage that includes an office and exercise room. The outbuilding is located behind the house. It's a one-story, one-bay frame, gable roof building with asbestos shingle siding and plywood double doors. The circa 1925 structure served as an attached garage to the main building, both of which are considered contributing resources in the South Lamar District. The applicant states that the outbuilding is in a state of disrepair, causing the structure to fall in on itself. The applicant provided photos that are included in the packet. Photographs provided by the applicant illustrate the extent of the damage and the current condition of the garage. Owners of the adjoining and abutting properties were notified of the demolition and construction plans by the applicant via certified mail as required by the ordinance. Okay, so next in the staff report, I have listed the criteria to consider when determining if the resource is a candidate for demolition. So I'll skip forward to the proposed plans and then come back and read those for the commissioners at the end of the report. So once, if approved, once removed, the applicant proposes a two-story garage in the outbuilding place. The building would feature an office exercise area, bathroom and living area with a porch on the second level. The first level would serve as parking with an attached storage room. The new construction will be composed primarily of old Chicago-style brick and hardy siding, with cornices and shingled roof that match the main building. The second floor balcony will include metal railing covered by a standing seam metal roof. Wooden shutters and decorative metal trellis will also be included in the design. The design guidelines discourage the demolition of contributing outbuildings and instead encourages repair whenever possible. However, the guidelines also recognize a historic garage may be inadequate for today's multi-car modern family. Additionally, the location of the new construction would place the garage directly behind the primary structure, making it non-visible from University Avenue. So the commission must consider the criteria for demolition, and if the plan is, if the proposed plan is acceptable given the state of the existing outbuilding. If the commission finds that the demolition of the outbuilding is acceptable, staff recommends approval of the applicant's plans as submitted. So I can go ahead and I can read those criteria if you like, and then we can hear from Sam Coker, who is the architect and the applicant, if there's any questions about the proposed plan. So I'll go ahead and start with the criteria. A is the commission shall consider the individual, architectural, cultural, and or historical significance of the resource. B, the commission shall consider the importance or contribution of the resource to the architectural character of the district. C is the commission shall consider the importance or contribution of the resource to the neighborhood property values. And D, the commission shall consider the difficulty or impossibility to reproduce such a resource because of its texture, design, material, or detail. So, like I said, Sam Coker is the architect, and I believe he's present in the boardroom if there's any questions from the commission.
Thank you, Angie.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me present virtually this evening.
Mr. Coker, would you like to add any comments? If you'd come over to the podium and introduce yourself for the record.
I'm Sam Coker. I'm the architect for the renovation of this home and the addition we previously did, as well as for this garage addition. You know, it was designed more or less to try to come across as an original outbuilding to the structure. You know, that's due interpretation, but the existing garage that we're demolishing is on the historic register, but it really is pretty insignificant and is in disrepair, so hopefully there's not an issue with that.
Thank you. The floor is open for questions and comments about this case.
Sam, does that lot slope down to the back?
It does slope down to the back, but it's not overly exaggerated. I mean, I think we'd have a turn down footing at the back of the garage probably for 2 feet or 2 to 3 feet probably.
So does that do anything to reduce the massing of the building?
No, it doesn't.
Kind of doesn't shorten it or anything?
No, I mean, I did make sure we're shorter than the original house, but we're not lowering the existing grade of the drive.
Will this be used by the owners or will it be rental?
Completely by the owners.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Coker? Mr. Coker, we appreciate your good work, and your opinion about the demolition of the garage.
Certainly.
Since it is a contributing resource, even the garage,
Right.
I think it's probably appropriate that we ask for an engineer's report
Okay.
on that. That's, you know, we particularly a contributing structure, because demolition of any,
Well, I think it was actually a later structure, even though it shows up on the survey. It was not original to the home.
right, was it like 1920? It's 100 years
something
old
like that.
or so.
I would question whether it's really that old.
Yeah, yeah.
I have to say that, you know, we do really put a lot of faith in the surveys. This building is not that visible from the street, and our surveyor did not enter private property when surveying. So, you know, I don't consider this building that significant, this outbuilding. I mean, I think it's been highly altered, it has asbestos siding.
So so you're saying the fact that
And we have,
it's listed as contributing, there are variations of contributing?
I don't know, I'm not in the mind of Judith Johnson who did the surveys, but I don't know that it is an architecturally significant resource, especially to how visible it is in the district currently.
Okay.
And I'm not sure you could get a modern day car in it, actually. It's pretty
Well, that
small.
makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
You know, based on
Well,
information.
yeah, but it's more, I mean, it doesn't serve a lot of purpose.
We have seen some outbuildings approved for demolition by the commission. We've seen them approved to be moved by the commission. It just depends.
I don't know that you've got it, but I have a survey of the property now, which shows where it is.
The Swain property we just did a few months ago, the Swain property to take down something that was visible.
Well, if this is not visible, unless you're standing in front of it,
Right. It's a little different than when you're able to see it from the street.
any comments, thoughts about whether we should or should not ask for an inspection from commissioners?
I think it's not necessary because you don't see it. And, you know, there again, we have addressed properties, one on North Lamar just in the last few months where we agreed to take down an outbuilding that is visible. And so, you know, I feel like we need to be careful when we are, and we didn't ask for any backup on that piece of property.
Any other comments, thoughts?
This doesn't look like a whole lot of building, just this particular specific one.
I've never seen it
Not
before.
often.
Yeah, okay. No, I just raised the issue because, you know,
Yeah, sure.
demolition is a big deal of any description. So I don't disagree with what I've heard.
And Angie included that, I think, in the record, just as, you know, we want to remember that that's an option when written into the ordinance.
Yeah.
If it does become necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if it's visible, we need to take a second look at it, but, and then weigh the factors of how, you know,
Yeah.
the condition of it, but I don't see a problem here.
Any other comments, questions about any aspect of the demolition? And this will be two votes. We will first vote to approval to demolish, and then we will consider the new construction. Is there a motion to approve the demolition of this garage?
I so move.
Second.
Motion and second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? You have permission to demolish. Next for consideration is the new construction, which we have been looking at the illustration. Any questions about the new construction?
I'm sorry, so neighbors have been contacted, but none replied?
I have not heard from any of them yet.
We didn't receive any feedback from neighbors. So anytime there's a demolition on the property by ordinance, the applicant is required to notify the adjoining and confronting neighbors by certified mail and include the plans. And we did receive, we get the receipts from those to confirm that they went out, and they did.
No response.
Hi, Jimmy. I just wanted to, if I could respond to, before the certified mail went out, we did receive one phone call, actually fielded the phone call from a neighbor that just saw the demo sign. And when I, explained what was going on, that they were requesting to remove the outbuilding, they were totally fine with it. They just called because they had not yet received the certified mail. So that's the only phone call that we received about it. Once they heard that it was just the outbuilding, they were totally fine with it.
Thanks. One comment to the affirmative. If there are no questions about the plans that have been presented, is there a motion to approve the new construction?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of approval signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It passes. Thank you very much. That concludes the official public hearings. We now have several complimentary reviews that we're always happy to receive complimentary requests, because in many cases it, I think, saves time and effort by all participants. So the first one is a complimentary review requested by Richard Kumpf for renovations in addition to property located at 304 South 5th Street.
Okay, as usual for complimentary reviews, we'll do a little bit of a shorter staff report and just point out a few things that the commission may want to discuss based on the guidelines. This house is described in the Historic Resources Inventory Survey as a 1.5-story, 3-bay frame gable and wing house with Carpenter Gothic Revival influence, built circa 1880. And then the outbuilding, which is a, we're not seeing the photo on the survey, but it's a garage. Yeah, garage building. Oh yeah, you can see it a little bit in that photo. Circa 1920, 1-story, 1-bay frame gable roof with weatherboard siding. The applicant received approval for plans similar to those provided in January of 2013. As that certificate of appropriateness is long expired, the commission will consider and vote on the plans as a new case. The applicant contacted the planning department in January of 2023 regarding a broken water pipe in the home. At that time, the Director of Development Services, Hollis Green, Ben Riquette, the Director of Planning, and the Chief Building Official, Jonathan Mizell, visited the home to survey the damage. You'll consider the proposed changes, which include, and Rick can take you through this because we didn't have existing plans, but it seems the majority of the plans are a new rear addition, a new porch that would wrap the side and rear of the house, to move the existing garage building further back on the site and to build a new garage. The commission will consider these additions and changes using the guidelines for new additions to historic buildings, which we've already read through a little bit this evening. Additions should be done in a manner that does not diminish the character of the building in the district. Additions should be contemporary but compatible with the building and its surroundings. A new addition to a historic building is considered to be successful if it preserves significant historic materials and features, preserves the historic character of the building, and protects the historic significance by making a visual distinction between what's old and what's new. Staff concerns based on the recommendations of the guidelines are mostly that the commission consider how the wraparound porch alters the building's massing and if that's appropriate for the building and the district, or if it could perhaps be separated from connecting to the original porch, and if the porch detailing could be simplified so that it's more clear what is old and what is new with the new additions. And similar concerns are with the new garage that maybe the detailing could be a little bit less like the original building so that it's clear that the building is new construction and not an original outbuilding. But Rick is here to take us through the plans.
Welcome. If you would introduce yourself, please, sir, for the record.
Yeah, hello, my name's Rick Kumpf from Dallas, Texas, and I own the house at 304 South 5th Street. I bought this house in 2012. They're in a separate attachment. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I bought this house in 2012. My 4 kids went to school here. We hired Tom Haworth to do plans for the house. He did an excellent job. We were approved in 2000, was it 12 or 13? The time lapsed. We reapplied, I think in 15, and we were approved again. I've got both those letters. At the time, my kids ended up moving into the house at separate times, so we had kids there for 8 years. Had a lot of fun with it. Once my youngest graduated, which was in 22, we then decided let's pick it back up and redo it. All along the way, we sought opinions, not just from local architect, but the planning commission here. I think it was Katrina Hearn, was that her name, that used to be here? And she gave us a lot of guidance. When we picked it back up, we realized this was going to be a pretty expensive endeavor, and we felt like we needed a garage. One of the problems we had is the garage that's on there now is kind of like the previous applicant that was up here. It's a add-on structure that's a carport that's pretty close to falling down, and you can't really get a car in it. And if we're gonna spend a lot of money to redo this place, we really felt like we needed a 2-car garage. Since we're on a corner lot, we can't really put a garage on the corner where it is now or enhance it because that's a front yard and it's kind of in the setback. So we got the advice to put it on the back where legally a garage would be. So we had it designed to do that. In the process, I asked the planning commission, can we tear down the garage? They said we'd have to go before you and get your opinion. They said an alternate would be to move the garage to a different part of the property and purpose it for something else. So that's kind of what we did. My intent here tonight is to kind of get some feedback. Last Christmas Day, almost to almost a year now, the pipes froze. The second floor bathroom, which is very old, was on kind of an outer wall. They froze, and we didn't hear about it until December 28th when it thawed out. Literally 28,000 gallons of water went through the house, almost 2 swimming pools. Literally destroyed the house. We are all kinds of disputes with the insurance, et cetera, still to this day. We have had to tear down everything inside because of mold, and the house has mold all over it. I did submit one picture, but we've had mold testing of the house, gone back, scrubbed it, gutted it some more, done some more mold testing, went further in and gutted it. And so we're still in the process of doing that. And I think it's gonna be at least 6 more months before we really know what we can do. So our options are kind of get some feedback. Would you guys approve what was approved twice before? And if you would you also consider letting us either tear the garage down or moving it? Either one. We're open to either, but it's not a feasible outsource, and it was an add-on building as well. So that's kind of where we are. We don't really want to tear the house down. We might be forced to, but that's not our intent because we really do like it. We've had a lot of good memories with it. So it's almost identical to what Tom drew the first time. The difference is we narrowed a little bit of the porches on both sides because they were, the way he had it drawn kind of went into some of the trees, and we didn't want to lose some of the big trees. So That's kind of a front drawing of the house right there, if you kind of scroll down or up. So that's that one right. We'll just go to the top and I'll work backwards. Yeah, so right there, that's the backyard. So our goal is to add 2 bedrooms on the back of the house. It's a 2-bedroom house now. We want to make it 4 bedrooms. And that's what was approved without the garage before.
I have a question.
Sure.
The porch that goes across this back side of the building, is that a new feature?
It would be new, yes. And that was drawn there 10 years ago.
And what is it as it exists now? No porch?
There's no porch.
That's due west.
That's facing the backyards. That's facing west, yes. And if you can't see it, it's all covered with trees back there.
Yeah, big hollies.
I'm sorry, what?
Hollies.
Yes, yes. And so that's the backyard there, kind of facing, it's almost like a grove of trees. That would be the north, southwest corner.
So the porch to the right of the front gable was what's existing?
That's existing now. And that had been, when the Howarths or the Vassar Bishop owned it, that porch was redone sometime, I want to say like 30 years ago.
So, okay, that's probably an original porch?
Yeah. Yeah, it's original, but it was redone. You can see if you go by the house, you can see all the brick and the railings were all new. So our goal was to literally, we wanted it to have some kind of southern feel to it and put a porch all the way around it. And we wanted to kind of match it. The house that was built in the late 1800s had an add-on like 50, 60 years later. It doesn't quite match it. It's a little bit of a Frankenstein look. And the add-on, serendipitously is kind of where all the water damage is, for most part. But that's what we wanted to kind of put 2 bedrooms on top of it, redo it, and then put the porch around. So this is a view from the northeast. We kind of just matched everything. We didn't want to add any new elements, make it look different. We wanted it to look the same. We'll go to the next page, or the next.
Excuse me, let me interrupt you for a minute.
Yeah.
So when you use the term match,
Make it look consistent. Consistent architecture.
Materials and.
Everything the same everything. We don't want to do any fake siding. We don't want to do any fake anything. We don't want to do different architectural design. I don't want to have, kind of like your earlier hearing, 2 different designs on the house. We want it to look the same.
I understand that, but normally when you, in the historic district with a contributing building, when you add something different, we like it to not be like it was the original part of the house, but that it's an add-on that blends with the original house.
Well, so everything that's right there, with the exception of the garage, you guys approved before, twice. And so I'm not arguing, I'm just.
Yeah. And I understand that, but those approvals have expired.
And I understand.
And this is a new commission. We again appreciate the fact that you are here for just our comments.
Correct.
So that's what we're going to give you. The point that Diane is making is additions to historic structures, and this is an interesting caveat, but we really don't want them to look identical to the original. We want a viewer to be able to look at a structure and recognize any parts that have been added on, particularly extension like your garage. It needs to harmonize, but it visually needs to be easily identified as not part of the original house, because we want to preserve the original house and permit people to add to it, but not in the exact detail of the house.
So you want one house to look like 2 houses joined together?
Well,
that's what it sounds like. I'm just trying to interpret.
Saying, you can call it that, but our goal is that the addition is distinguishable from the original.
Okay, well, I'm not the expert. I hired an expert. They did the drawings 10 years ago,
Yeah, we appreciate that.
and we went through that process.
These are just our feedback.
understand.
Our thoughts to
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
It's not any more than that.
Right, so I'm going off of what, historically the Preservation Committee approved before and what local experts drew. And it was their vision, not mine, when we drew the plan. So if we can just kind of go through it, you guys can get some more feedback and give me some other comments as well too, please. So that's one angle. Ben, if you don't mind scrolling through. So that's the back. Now, I do think the garage doesn't look identical to the house. I think it looks very different than the house. It's the only location I can really put it on the property since,
My comments had more to do with the front.
well, the front's the same. We're not adding on to the front.
The front view of the garage, the other side.
The other side of the garage?
I mean, can we see that?
Yeah. Now go the other way. You'll get to it the other way. Right there. So that on the right is the garage on the far right.
Right.
And there's actually quite a few, there's a mangrove of magnolia trees in front of it. You will not be able to see it. And then there's a large tree in front of it as well. So it's pretty hidden. And that's really just it's a door to a stairwell that goes to kind of a little garage apartment upstairs. And so there's a better angle of it if you go to the next screen shot. So right there, you'll see a little bit better angle. So I don't think it looks identical to the house. I think it's very different. The windows are different. They're the same style in that they're pointed at the top, but you won't see windows that same size on there. Kind of the style of the roof there it's similar. It's similar. So, and if you keep going, you'll kind of get a little bit better feel for the rest of it. This is the porch where the new garage would touch, the porch, and we're going to kind of create like a little bit of an outdoor living room there with a fireplace, et cetera. And if you keep going, please. That's another view there of the garage, and you can see we're putting on the side of the garage kind of trellises with rose bushes, et cetera. A little bit further, this is looking at it from the south, and the house looks pretty much just like that now without this porch on it. So it's really just adding the porch, which we had approved one time before. If you go a little bit further, that's another view of the front of the house. Again, it's just the porch on the left. Everything else, the dormer windows, the gables, the porch on the right is all the same. And then if you scroll onto I think that's it, the gazebo, I wanted to go back to the gazebo. I think that was the very first one. So that basically is taking the exact dimensions of the garage and moving it to the back of the lot, using the same roof line, the same materials, moving everything, same footprint. The garage has 2 closets in it, so we would reuse those closets to the right of the brick, and it'd be the same brick. The garage has kind of a brick facade on it. The difference would be is we would take the sides of it off since they don't really serve any purpose.
What part of the garage is included in this new structure?
The roof, pretty much all the wood panels, the brick. Now, the current garage is in pretty dire shape. It's falling down, and we've also gotten impact, and so this is actually a good picture of it. You guys are welcome to come look at it anytime you're up to walking in the neighborhood. But if you go look at it, it's got a lot of rotten wood to it. My neighbors across the street, Dixon Perry and Lowry Lomax, would pay me anything to tear it down or move it out of their sight. It is kind of in a front yard on this side of the home, since it is a corner lot.
The reason I asked, as I read the document, it just seemed it was vague about moving the garage. I just.
Yeah, and I got that idea from the planning commission. I mean, I hadn't thought about that.
What
I'm sorry, what?
definition of moving?
Department, I'm sorry, planning department.
Yeah, and so, just so I understand it, the materials, all the materials of this will be used to construct.
Correct.
Is it being moved and then modified?
I don't think it could be moved. It would fall apart.
So it's disassembled?
It'd have to be disassembled and then reconstructed.
With some new detail.
A little bit, yes, with some new detailing. So that's kind of the vision. Alternatively, you know, we've got engineering reports. You know, they're not good, and we're still waiting. And time's kind of what will be our determinant on what we do with the house next. If it doesn't look good, then our alternative approach is to kind of come back and see if we can have it torn down. We can show it the engineering reports, because it's going to be
Tear the whole house down?
correct.
My understanding is that the city, when you had the plumbing issues, the pipe issues, came over and, again, my understanding is that they found the house to be very intact, that the damage was relatively
I'd like to-
containable.
When you say the city, who are you saying the city?
I
What,
think it was myself, the building official.
And when was that? Was that in January?
Yeah, you had us go over and take a look at it, and that was just before we, I don't know, I think John Abernathy. maybe
Right.
took a look
But,
at it.
so the insurance company hired ServPro. When ServPro came in, they put dehumidifiers in. They did not cut the walls out. That's a source of contention. The house exploded with mold, and I would say there was pretty much mold in every room. Walls were black.
that happened immediately after?
No, it took about 90 days to happen while the dehumidifiers were running.
That happens a lot on
Yeah.
the coast with hurricanes,
Yeah.
and there are businesses that can go in and get that
If
out.
had the walls been torn out, you know, within 2 or 3 weeks of the damage, then I think it would be a whole different issue.
But why were they not?
That's part of the legal issues that we have right now, is why they were not. They were directed to be done,
Okay.
and they were
I'm
not.
just saying this in response to your comment about tearing the house down.
We don't want to tear it down. I'm just saying that but we also don't want to do construction and then have this issue 1 year later and find that there's mold everywhere. So we've literally, you know, everywhere where the water seeped out and crept, because it was about 28,000 gallons, we've torn out all those walls and scrubbed them, and then repeat, then gone further, done this test samples. And I'm happy to share those with the court if
You know,
if
it's
they
a
would like to
fine
look at
old house, and our goal is always to preserve. And we appreciate what you are doing and have done in your plans, of course, but, you know, just the sort of statement of tear it down, there are a lot of remedies for the problems that your house has had.
We're exhausting every one of them, trust me.
I think back when I visited the site, I took some photos and maybe even a video when I was there, and I'd be glad to send that to the commission.
And that was in January? Because I did send you a text in April and invited you to come take a look. I don't know if you did, though, back in April. Because April's when we came and visited the property, and we were surprised at how much it had spread everywhere. And I can submit those pictures if necessary, but that's not our intent. Our intent is to fix the house up and make it nice, make it an asset for the community, and for our neighbors and for ourselves. And it's a large lot. We like the location. We like the house. We want to do the right thing, and we've gathered quite a bit of feedback from the Historic Planning District and others that have an interest in it, and we've pretty much followed that direction, we thought.
Yeah, we appreciate your efforts to do it right and your continued efforts.
Right.
And again, the purpose of a complimentary hearing is for us just to have a very
Sure.
candid conversation to give you an idea of where we might be
Okay.
if and when you come back to ask for approval, just to kind of give you a heads up about some of our concerns. One of them is, in fact, the details about replicating versus acknowledging architectural details. Are there other comments from any commissioners that would be helpful?
This house is kind of another one of those old gems of Oxford. And I don't necessarily have, the garage is pushed back, it's right about the Magnolia. But the porch, if I'm standing there looking at the front, the porch on the left is just too much. That's my opinion, all it is. But it really seems to me to detract from the overall look of the house. Putting that porch right down the left side. It just kind of totally changes it.
It changed.
Nothing else that's done to the house to me changes it like that porch does.
Can you go to the front picture, Ben, please?
If we could see almost side by side of this versus what it looks like now,
I think I could do that.
the expanded porch does change the look of the house.
The side porch is on Tyler.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas it wouldn't be as visible on the other side.
I was trying to get the split view is only gonna be a new window. I was trying to get this to come up.
I would like to
That's about
say
as good as
that
I can
we
do.
appreciate what you are trying to do to this house. And I hope that you'll continue to work with us as we express our concerns. And let's see if we can't get somewhere that'll make you happy and keep our integrity of the historic district intact.
Well, that's the goal, and I spent a lot of time and money soliciting feedback to do that.
And we
And I
appreciate
thought I had.
Yeah.
And
Any
so,
other comments from commissioners in our hearing? I know we've got a couple of, I believe, neighbors, and I can go on and sort of address this now. We really appreciate I assume your interest in this project. In a complimentary situation, we're not allowed to take public comment, but any views or opinions that any people present have, we encourage you to write to the city with that information, and when it comes back for an official hearing, a public hearing, we will welcome comments from any neighbors.
okay, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you. Next complimentary review is requested by Bruce Crane for new construction for Fallen Oaks property located at 427 North 16th Street.
Okay, the proposed plans for this property include construction of 7 single-family units. On the property, we've got a site plan and architectural drawings for the proposed units. The subject property is around a 1.4 acre lot on North 16th Street, directly south of the Methodist Church and inside the Neighborhood Conservation Overlay and the North Lamar Historic District. The applicant proposes to construct the residential common interest development on the property, the site plan for which is currently under review by the Site Plan Review Committee. At the December 11th meeting of the Planning Commission, the applicant received approval for a special exception to allow for the development on the property. The commission will consider the proposed plans using the new construction section of the Oxford Design Guidelines. We've been through most of those recommendations this evening, so I won't read this whole paragraph. The commission should analyze the character defining features of the existing buildings, streets, and landscapes to determine whether the new construction is compatible. The one comment by staff that is of concern is that the building 3, so if you're looking at North 16th Street, which is in the far right of this picture, that elevation on building 3 is not the front of the property, so it's not really oriented toward North 16th Street, though they did put those porches that you can see on that elevation. So I'd like for the commission to take a particular look at building 3 and see if that satisfies the building being oriented toward North 16th Street. But other than that, the materials, we didn't get a full list, but appear to be painted brick. Nothing out of the ordinary for the historic district with an asphalt shingle roof. They do feature arched doorways, which we've had a lot of discussion about tonight. But none of the proposed garages for the building's front, North 16th Street.
Okay, there's your front
Yeah,
elevation.
that's building 3. So is that a front elevation? Which is also a requirement of the land development code. So that was the main thing that stuck out. And it looks like JW is here, and also Bruce Crane, who is the architect on the project, is on virtually. You can see him online.
Welcome, Mr. Crane. Do you have any comments you'd like to add to Kate's presentation?
No, I certainly appreciate you guys taking the time to do the complimentary review. I've always been a big help in the past, so certainly, any feedback that you guys have, we want to entertain. To her comment about building 3, we knew that the front door did not face the main street, but we did put a porch which goes into the dining room, living room, and quite honestly, I could see that probably being used as a main entry on some occasions.
Is that shown on these illustrations that we're looking at?
We get to the
It is. So building 3 floor plan may be the best to look at. So that is the elevation on Jackson Street of building 3. One thing that might help, I hadn't thought about it, but possibility of a metal roof there might help that.
Bruce, are the windows on a diagonal for any particular reason?
So those 3 windows are going up a flight of stairs to the 2nd floor. You can barely see the stairs dashed in. We can take 2 different approaches. We can either follow the profile of the stairs, or we could align the 3 windows on the 2nd floor, and that space opens up into a large gathering room upstairs. So from an architectural standpoint, for more classic design, probably that alignment would be better, where all 3 windows, or all 5 windows actually across the top, would be in line. Can't really put any windows down below because they would be in the stairs, but we did put a set of shutters there, which is, I think, probably appropriate for the design.
Any commissioners have any comments about relocating the 3 windows to as I understand it, to be more in line with each other instead of staggered? I think it would look better.
Yeah, there is.
And the staff comments about the Unit 3 side facing the street. Is this, I don't know that I've seen this illustration.
This is the elevation that I was talking about. So that would face North 16th.
that right there is facing towards the cemetery.
So that's the concern, is the void on the right side.
And this is, you can see, this is the front of the house, like where you would have primary entry in the garage.
Right.
And you can see the porch
Yeah, and the aerial view, Ben, may be a good example to see how that
I was trying to zoom
plays
in
out, because you could, you know, as you turn into the end of the subdivision, you know, you've got your front to your right, and then you drive past it and pull into your garage, and your guest parking would be there.
It appears to be a sidewalk that leads to that porch
Yes.
from the street,
There is.
from the street side.
You know, it's kind of like having a house on the lake where you almost need two front elevations to get it to work.
Does the staff have any comments about this, or is this what you were referring to when you said it was not enough?
Yeah, I was interested if the commission feels that that is a front elevation. I think the rhythm of the windows is not similar to other buildings in the historic district. I do think the attempt with the porch works. I do think it's giving that this could be an entry to the house, but the windows to the right and left of it, I'm just not sure it's enough.
Okay, can we see that illustration of that facade again, please?
I think, yeah, there you go.
I agree with you on the windows.
So if the windows were, all 5 of them were on the same line,
Yeah, and then Bruce, I believe the bottom right, is that a utility room?
To the right is the laundry room, and also I think maybe a pantry, if my memory serves me correctly.
I know the guidelines don't like false windows, shutters closed kind of things.
But maybe in an instance of the staircase, that's better than having a blank.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Are you getting at that maybe though in an instance where it's a staircase or something where you can't?
So that's the second floor there.
I'm just saying that if there were false windows, it would give that side more symmetry.
Yeah.
And more perhaps appearance of a front.
Better than garage doors facing the street.
Yes. And I think it's more successful than just leaving it blank.
Yep.
So we could suggest that that be considered false windows.
It appears there's one on the far left side of the image, yeah? Yeah, I think that it either needs to go away or others need to be added. It looks a little strange.
So maybe what we do is on the eliminate one of the windows in the stairwell, and then have 2 windows on the second floor, and then put 2 pair of recessed shutters that match the windows up above. And you know, all of that's pretty loose, so you know we can easily space those out. And then on the right-hand side, if we rearrange the laundry room, I think we could get a window on the back right, and then maybe a matching shutter on the right-hand side on the bottom as well.
I'm looking for head nods.
Yep. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a consensus on the commission that those suggestions that you've made in conversation with Kate would be acceptable.
Okay.
Would be more acceptable.
It's always interesting. I drew these about a week ago. You come back and you look at them and you're like, maybe I could have done a little better on that. So I appreciate y'all pointing it out.
Well, we appreciate you saying that. Any other comments from any commissioner about this complimentary presentation? Thank you for bringing it to us, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Thank you, guys. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Next case is complimentary review requested by Jonathan Maddox for exterior renovations for property located at 403 North Lamar.
Okay, the applicant seeks feedback on proposed plans for the property you see here at 403 North Lamar. The building is listed as contributing in the North Lamar Historic District. It's described in the Historic Resources Inventory Survey as a circa 1970 two-story, 5-bay brick veneer with coins, center hall office building with colonial revival features. Proposed changes to the site include expansion of the rear addition, installation of a new front plaza, to install a balcony on the front elevation, changes to the existing paving, including a new side drive and altered rear parking lot, and to paint the brick that's currently unpainted. Jonathan called and wanted to, well, I won't speak for you, but wanted to get this before you guys on a complimentary basis. I think it's just a little out of the ordinary for what we see in the historic district, particularly with this commission. It is a commercial building. It's a little bit newer than a lot of the buildings we typically see. And I think that the proposed changes to the rear addition easily meet the design guidelines. It's a 1-story addition. He's proposing that it'll be a 2-story. The two things I was unsure of were painting the brick, although since it's a veneer, that has been approved at the commission level before, and adding on the new front porch, because while particularly changes to the front elevation are normally against the design guidelines, this building is just not, you know, it's a little different than what we typically see. So
How old is this building?
70s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it, you know, it looks it, I think. I do think it's well proportioned, especially considering some stuff we see today. But yeah, it's not, you know, it's not South Fifth Street. So, Jonathan, do you want to come on up?
Good evening. So it is an office building that's made to look like a house, which in and of itself is a little strange. The main modification we're talking about making to the front is adding the balcony onto the 2-story front porch. That in and of itself is not a peculiar or unusual thing. It might have just as well had a second floor, and there are many cases, even along North Lamar, where we have 2-story colonnaded porches. The doors that we have on the second floor are in the location of the windows. Those are wide windows. They're about 4 feet wide, so we can put a narrow pair of doors in there. But it's really just trying to create public space. The building has been used by multiple tenants. The downstairs is actually not connected to the upstairs from within the building. You have to enter the second floor from one of those side doors that faces the Chevron. The building will be used as the headquarters of Bank First, and so they will be occupying the whole building. We're adding a stair inside that connects them, reworking a stair that's the exterior stair, and adding an elevator so that there can be more public spaces. One of their ideas is to use some of their boardroom space also for community space, and having this second floor porch is also just another extension of community space. The same is the way we were thinking about using the front lawn of the building by making it a plaza that's really an extension of the sidewalk so that it's usable by anybody who's walking along that sidewalk. The comment about adding a side drive is actually we're removing a side drive. So along the north side of the building now, from North Lamar, there's a little narrow lane and a drive-through window for the insurance agency that was downstairs. We're just talking about getting rid of all of that. It is not an easy place to enter or exit onto Lamar, and it just cleans it up not to have that. The parking lot is oversized as well, so we would be rebuilding it in a smaller footprint, which just enables us to get some landscaping around the back of the building and just more green space in general. So the parking lot is behind the building. Everybody entered the downstairs Oxford Insurance building from a door on the northwest corner on the rear that, you know, has nothing warm and inviting about it. And I should have maybe had a picture a little bit further to the left because the real door is around on the side of that one-story section. But nothing about this is really very welcoming. In fact, this is where most people would enter this bank once they've parked. So our goal in the things that we're doing on the back of the building is just to make it an inviting entrance into the building. Nice. The second floor is also helpful because, as I mentioned, we're adding an elevator that's happening outside of the footprint of the existing two-story part. So rather than have an elevator tower extending up on the outside of the building, it can be contained within this second floor additional space.
Jonathan, is on the Lamar side of the building, the overhead view, that semicircular area, is that pedestrian?
Paving. We were calling it a plaza. Yeah. It's
not a vehicular.
No, it's all pedestrian. Yeah, and there is a little bit of grade change from the sidewalk up to the front porch. So some of what you can see, the white curving bands are actually ramps, so that someone from the sidewalk could come up to the front door without accessibility issues.
Questions for Jonathan?
This is a bank for customers. It's not just office space.
It is a bank for customers. Yeah, they have several locations in more convenient places for their everyday traffic, but will be doing banking business out of here, loan kind of operation. So the public will come and go. Not in the same way they would to tellers from a car, so we don't have that sort of thing. But it is for meeting with the public. I have closed shutters on the downstairs like you saw in the last project. Everything to the left of the front door in this image is a mechanical room that's staying there, so windows aren't appropriate. So to match it, we have a pair on the right side of the door. The door location that we have on this rear elevation is slightly adjusted from the one that we saw in that existing picture so that it aligns with the front door. And when you walk into this new back door, you'll see through the bank and to the existing front door.
The back door is nicer than the front door.
Yes. Just not the case now, by any means.
So the issues are painted brick.
Adding a balcony, I think, to the two-story porch was of concern. I didn't show this view, and I should have, and I will next time, but one of the things that I mentioned earlier was how you get to the second floor is on that side, south side with those two doors. Those doors will just go away, and there's a small awning there, steep steps that don't meet code. All of that will just be removed. Patching that brick in that area as well as extending the second floor, extending onto a second floor on the rear are part of the reasons why painting the brick will make it more cohesive. And it's ugly brick. But.
Does anybody have any issues related to any of this that when it comes back for a public hearing are going to be of concern?
The building's not wider,
it's not, excuse me, it's not what?
Not increasing the width.
No, the footprint of the building isn't changing, no. Well, that's not entirely true. We're adding that little back cover over the front, over the door, but otherwise the footprint hasn't changed. The addition is only a second floor and a balcony on an existing porch.
If there are any concerns that any commissioner anticipates having, if this were brought to a vote, now's the time to share that, please. I don't hear any, Jonathan.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Just thinking about the buildings in that area, which I'm pretty familiar with. I can't think of one, and maybe I'm wrong, that has a balcony. Lots of them have porches. LaRousse has a porch. There's a lot of buildings around there, a lot of houses as well that have porches. Could you do a porch rather than I'm just throwing out an idea.
Well, the porch is already there.
Right, and I recognize that it's not a house house and also recognize that it's a bank, so.
Yeah.
There's some
Well,
caveats for sure.
there's
but-
plenty of precedence in this area for balconies and second floor porches as we go further into the commercial area, just, more towards the center of the square. But, and I don't know everyone's names along that street, but there is midway down the block towards the north, there's a two-story white house that has a second floor porch. I think the Swaney's house has a balcony on their two-story front porch. So my point was that, having a balcony on a porch like that is not necessarily an uncommon thing. If it stood out as something that didn't belong, that would be one thing, but I think, to someone who hadn't seen it before, they would never think anything other than that was an appropriate place for a balcony.
I think the material you've chosen to, rather than doing like a picket, I think this receipts to that. I think it'd be a good plan.
So I know painting the brick is always a big issue, but do you understand my issue?
Yeah, this one's easier because it was built in the 70s.
And the additional massing on the back is not of concern. It's a pretty ugly little one-story appendage, so I think. And even though this is the back of the building, it is visible. If you're leaving Ison Place and headed back towards the square, you see the whole back of this building. So I think it'd be a big improvement.
You're improving the back. If there are no more comments, Jonathan.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Is there any other business to be presented to the commission? If not, is there a motion that we adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We adjourn.
Merry Christmas.